Hello there, and welcome to the Mission Gathering Christian Church Disciples of Christ podcast. I know if you just heard Christian Church, you almost clicked away, but maybe you can stay, and I get it. The words have baggage, and believe me, we know. That's actually kind of why we're here and doing this podcast. Because Mission Gathering is a community that is daring to tell the truth about power and daring even to believe that love is stronger than the powers of empire. This season, this Lenten season, we're in a series called Unlearning Empire. And here's what that means it means we're naming honestly out loud without flinching everything that has shaped us. The stories we inherited about who has worth, and who doesn't. The myths that told us scarcity is just the way it is, that violence is normal, that some lives matter more than others, that silence is safer than truth, that this is just how the world works and will always work. We've absorbed those stories. They're in us whether we choose them or not. Empire doesn't ask us for consent, it just teaches us this. So we bring all of it here because God doesn't meet you in your obedience to unjust systems. God meets you in the scared, uncomfortable, necessary work of unlearning what's been binding you, what's been holding you back. And when we say everyone is welcome here, we really mean it. It's not as a slogan, it's as a commitment. If you're black, brown, Asian, indigenous, or white, if you're straight, gay, lesbian, bisexual, pansexual, asexual, queer, trans, non-binary, intersex, or questioning, if you are partnered, single, divorced, polyamorous, or still figuring it out, or maybe it's just complicated, if you are housed or unhoused, neurodivergent or neurotypical, disabled or chronically ill, thriving, or just absolutely exhausted, if you grew up in a church, if you were pushed out of church, if you were taught that God looked nothing like you, if you are listening to this today with a deep faith, a restless doubt, a righteous anger, or just enough energy to press play, you are welcome here, friend. Fully, joyfully, without any asterisks. Because here's what we believe empire loses its grip when people choose truth over denial, relationship over domination, abundance over fear, love over control. We're not here to rehearse the stories that have harmed us. We're here to practice a different way, to unlearn what empire taught us about God, about each other, and about ourselves, and to remember what love has been saying this whole time underneath all of that noise. So if you're willing to keep going, to join us, bring your whole self, bring your questions, bring your resistance, bring your grief, your anger, and your hope, bring your tenderness, bring the parts of you that got disciplined into silence, bring the parts that are still learning how to trust. This is a space where God is already at work in acts of service that look like power turned upside down, in communities that choose care over calculation, and in every single moment, someone refuses to look away and instead chooses to love more deeply. Welcome to Mission Gathering. Welcome to Unlearning Empire, and welcome to a community where empire does not get given the final word because love gets the final word. Hey, welcome back or welcome in if you're new here to the Mission Gathering Christian Church Disciples of Christ podcast. Before we get into anything, I just want to warn you this episode isn't going to be comfortable. It's not meant to be comfortable. It's not supposed to be. If you came here looking for a vibe check and a worship playlist recommendation, that's not really what we do here. But who knows, maybe next week there will be. But we begin Lent with a celebration called Ash Wednesday. And I want to talk about what that actually means, not Instagram post where you with a cross on your forehead, or not the aesthetic of it, not like all of the things that we've seen built up around us and through religion, but like the real thing, the real disruptive, politically dangerous, empire threatening thing. Because our series this Lent is called Unlearning Empire. So that's what we're trying to do. Because there's something that nobody tells you about Ash Wednesday. Ashes are not about guilt. They're not about saying sorry. They're about truth. And right now, in the place that we're at in my country here in the US and all around the world, it seems like truth is a radical stance. Truth is something radically opposed to the power of empire. So let's start at the beginning, like the real beginning, before clocks existed, before borders, before markets decided your worth, and monuments told you whose story mattered. There was breath and there was dust. And according to the oldest story you know, God took that dust and breathed life into it. You are that dust. You are that breath. Not your productivity, not your follower count, not your GPA, your job title, or whether you figure your life out at 23 to 43. You. Fragile, beautiful, flawed, mortal you. Ash Wednesday starts there. Not with a performance of holiness, not with polishing your guilt until it looks like humility. It starts with telling the truth. And the truth is that you're carrying grief that you were told to swallow. You're carrying fear that you were told to privatize, to deal with the alone quietly in therapy if you can afford it, in silence if you can't. You're carrying hope you were told was naive. Ash Wednesday, the celebration of Ash Wednesday says put it down, but put it down in community. You don't have to carry it alone. Okay, so one of the Bible passages that we read on Ash Wednesday, like almost every year, is from Joel. And let's talk about Joel, because Joel is unhinged in the best of ways. Joel says, blow the trumpet in Zion, sound the alarm on the holy mountain, let everyone tremble. Joel's not doing a wellness check. This is an emergency broadcast. Joel isn't sounding the alarm because God is some kind of cosmic punisher who wants to scare you. Joel sounds the alarm because empire, it thrives on amnesia. Think about that for a second. What does empire, and yes, I'm going to use that word, I'm going to keep using it. What does empire need you to believe? It needs you to believe that these markets they're obsessed with are eternal. That the way things are is the way things have always been and always will be. That borders and national boundaries are natural. That wealth concentration just is what it is, how it goes, the way the system works. That these systems grinding people down are basically permanent features of reality, not choices that powerful people made and continue to make. Empire teaches permanence. This is just how things are, and if you accept it, you stop imagining alternatives, you stop organizing, you stop dreaming, you stop threatening anything. But ashes are an interruption. They say, remember that you are dust, and to dust you shall return. That can be spooky. But here's what that line doesn't mean. It doesn't mean that just you personally will die someday. It means every tower falls. It means every economy collapses. Every regime that forgets God, that forgets people, that mistakes power for permanence returns to the dust. And that's not a threat to you, friend. That's good news. Another passage that we read every Lent, it seems like, it's from Matthew chapter 6. And here's where things get kind of spicy. Matthew 6 says, be careful that you don't practice your religion in front of people to draw their attention. You see, Jesus is watching the religious establishment of his day, the elites, the rich and the powerful, the people who pray loudly on the street corners, who give to the poor with a trumpet announcement, who wear their faith like a brand deal. And Jesus says he's not impressed. He says, when you pray, go into your room, close the door. When you give, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. And in our culture in 2026, that hits different, doesn't it? Because we live in a content economy where everything is potential performance. Your protest can be an aesthetic. Your faith can be a vibe. Your grief can be a post. Empire loves spectacle. Empire loves public piety that reinforces private power. It loves when your faith is a brand and your justice work is a filter. Jesus refuses that. Jesus calls you inward, not towards guilt, towards truth, not towards self-improvement, towards unmasking. Lent is not a cleanse. It's not a 40-day glow up for your soul. It's 40 days of asking, what am I performing? And what do I actually believe? What lies am I living with because they feel safer than grief? You see, that's a harder question than did I give up social media for Lent? Okay, here's the part. Here's the part that I really want you to sit with, really think about. If you received ashes today, or if you're going somewhere to receive ashes, you're you're not receiving punishment. You're not being reminded that you're bad. You're being reminded that you're mortal. You're finite. That you belong to something larger than yourself, and that something larger than yourself is not the economy. The ashes we receive are solidarity. The ashes you receive are solidarity. When you wear them, you are saying, none of us are exempt and none of us are alone. And here's why that's politically dangerous right now. Communal Lent, grieving together, interrupts one of Empire's favorite tricks, which is isolating you in your suffering. If your pain is a personal failure, you won't organize. If your burnout is a you problem, you won't question the system. If your anxiety is a chemical imbalance and nothing more, you won't ask what the chemicals are responding to. But when you grieve together, when we grieve together, when you and I grieve together, when you say out loud in community, this is not okay, and I'm not alone in knowing it's not okay, that's when things start to shift. Friend, these ashes are not a threat to you. They're a threat to Empire. Because Empire depends on your belief that it will last forever. Ashes look at Empire and say, you won't. So if you're still with me, I want to read something. This is a confession, and not the kind designed to make you feel small. It's the kind designed to make you feel real. So as I read this, maybe take a moment to just get quiet and still. God of truth, I've believed lies because they felt safer than grief. You've I've trusted violence to keep myself secure, profit to make myself whole, and silence to keep myself comfortable. I have participated in economies that devour, in borders that dehumanize, in systems that reward cruelty and call it realism. I've not only done harm, I've failed to interrupt that harm. I've isolated my pain instead of carrying it with others. I've mistaken permanence for faith. That's the confession, not I was mean to my roommate. Maybe that too. But the deeper thing, you've been breathing the air of Empire and calling it oxygen. You've been participating in systems and calling it neutral. Confession isn't about self-flagellation. It's about clarity. Seeing clearly what is so you can imagine what could be. So if you're at a service tonight and you receive ashes, or if you were at a service this morning receiving ashes, you are dust. You belong to God. Empire does not get the final word. You are dust. You belong to God. Empire does not get the final word. You belong to God, not to a market, not to a nation, not to productivity metrics or political parties or algorithms, to God, to the force that breathed life into the dust, and to the love that, according to this story, refuses to let death be the end of the conversation. Because empire does not get the final word in your life. This is an act of resistance. This is a political statement that is the truest sense of good news. Before I let you go, I want to sit and lament for a second. Because I think a lot of our progressive spaces, a lot of our social justice spaces, a lot of our faith spaces are very good at analysis and not always at grief. We bypass grief in so many ways, but grief matters. So I want to name some things. I want you just to let them land. For the people crushed by systems they didn't create and didn't choose. For the communities taught to believe their suffering is a personal failure. For the earth stripped and scorched in the name of growth. For your own exhaustion, if you are exhausted. For your own cynicism, if you're cynical. For the fear that hope is just a luxury you can't afford right now. God, hear our lament. This lament isn't giving up. This lament is our refusal to pretend that everything is fine. It insists that what is broken matters, that the people who are suffering matter, that this is not okay, and we will not make peace with it.